Hello, everyone. This is me, Charm City Decoded. I am your host, Sophina Turner. I've been gone for a little minute. I know, but I'm back, and hopefully, I'm here to bring you some good information. And today is January 30th, and the time is 8:59 p.m. So I'm a little late starting my podcast today, but it's all right. We're going to get there. So let's move into it. This is episode number 5. And the topic at hand is urban revitalization slash renewal, urban renewal. Um, and how it has affected the black community in Baltimore City. So we're going to get straight into it. Let's go back to a little history. The history of Baltimore City, which was at one time called Baltimore Town. Okay, it was established in 1730. It had started with, it had 60 lots, and on each lot had 1 acre. Okay, and then it grew. It was located on the north side of the inner basin, which is now called the inner harbor. Um, we just have a lot of things. We have in 1745, we have James Jonestown, which was a small settlement just east of the Jones Falls. It merged into Baltimore, adding, I say, 20 more lots to the town. So by 1752, we had maybe 25 buildings that was constructed, and it was moving at a slow pace. So from 1752 through 1773, Baltimore town was trading tobacco that was that rose the city to rival Philadelphia, Boston, and New York. Okay, but it was this one person by the name of Dr. John Stevenson, who was a physician and merchant back during that time, and he was shipping flour to Ireland. So a bell went off in their mind that, oh, okay, so that's how we can, increase revenue and broaden us out there where we can become one of the biggest, imports and exports out there. So, um, then they got into selling flour, and the flour market got them to where we are. Along with, of course, we know the intricacies of slave labor, but nonetheless, that's what got them to where they are, to where we are. So, urban renewal dates back to the 1960s. Okay, urban renewal dates back to the 1960s, which was adopted by the mayor and the city council. Okay, to establish and implement redevelopment goals. That was the purpose of it. It's supposed to be, if you want to know what urban renewal is, urban renewal is a plan to tear down slum environments and rebuild, and where it stays for the community, to rebuild for the community that lives within that community. But then you have another part to that where you have gentrification. Gentrification is when it is singled out by only people of means who just, they're the ones who are now housing in that area, and it's only for them. So revitalization versus gentrification, that's the contrast. One is for the community to help build and make the community better. The other is for just singling out only a certain class of people who have higher means, meaning have money and are in position, of power, where it's only like membership only. And, if you ever remember that movie called The Associate with Whoopi Goldberg? It's similar to that, where it was only the old white men that was allowed in that particular club. And it was, it was a white man's world when it come down to business. And what she did, she had to perpetrate as if she was a white man in order for her to be heard. And then at the end of that movie, she wound up showing who she truly was. And she wound up really, but they learned that it was what she knew and how she got there. Her ingenuity is what made her stay in the game. But that's what I would say an example of gentrification when it come down to, only, including just one brand of people. If I want to use that term. So that's what that is. But revitalization or urban renewal is definitely supposed to be for the people, but then you had a lot of things going on that violated the rights of those communities, and especially in, of course, the black and brown community, minority communities. It was this foundation called Abell, if I'm spelling it correct, it's Abell. And they called this project Drilling Down in Baltimore's Neighborhood. Okay? And this happened back, it was a data. It's like the Able report. It's an Able report. And they reported on mines data from 2000 to 2017. Okay, and to better understand this is how the racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic composition of Baltimore's neighborhoods have changed. Urban researcher and author Alan Malik. Malik is spelled Mallach. Alan Malik offers an overview on what has happened in Baltimore's neighborhoods since 2000, to what extent they have moved upward economically, moved downward, or stayed largely the same. Okay, so that's what his report is centered around. The report findings that the largest single factor driving change in Baltimore is that Baltimore is losing its working class and middle class families. Working class and middle class families, they're losing. While Baltimore is losing both black and white families, it also is gaining the young, high earning white population, but not black population. Okay, did you hear me? What it has come to is that while Baltimore is losing both white and black families, okay, it is gaining a young, high-earning white population, but not black population. Okay, the white population are becoming more affluent, and the black population are becoming more poor. That's the gist of it. Okay, and this reverberates through the housing project. Okay, where white millennials are moving housing demand is strong and prices are rising. Did that remind you of what's going on right now when it comes down to this pandemic and how people have benefited more, a lot off of this pandemic? But, you know, where when, I know recently I was trying to move. And I wind up staying where I'm at because there's a lot of things going on out there when it comes down to the market, housing market. But one of the things is that their prices are sky high now when it comes down to even just renting. You know, a 2-bedroom. It's like $1,900, $2,000. You know, that's just where it's at right now. Just for a regular 2-bedroom apartment. You know, houses, you know, are way over 2,000. A lot of them. You know, especially if you want to live in a decent neighborhood, you know. But nonetheless, that's what's going on. And so where working and middle class black families are leaving, housing demand is weak. Prices the prices are high now, but abandonment is widespread. They say, let me read this to you. It said, according to U.S. Census and the American Community Survey, out of 182, almost half of the predominantly white tracts, but only 4 out of 110 of the largely black tracts. So that means out of 182, whites are half. But out of 110, blacks only have 4. That's the percentage rate as far as when it comes down to it. So actually, gentrified by 2017. It was gentrified by 2017. So the patterns that is implicit with this is that historically patterns of discrimination, segregation, redlining, and white flight. I'm going to say that again. Historical patterns of discrimination, segregation, redlining, and white flight. Okay? So, I told you what the difference is. I'm going to read to you what it says the difference is as far as revitalization and gentrification. This is the contrast of it. It says revitalization means reinvesting in the existing community. It involves reinforcing social networks, neighborhood services, and local businesses. Now, in contrast, gentrifying neighborhoods, the community transitions to an exclusive community, inaccessible to the who once called it home. Inaccessible to who once called it home. Yeah, that's where we stand when it comes down to urban renewal. So, the black family, the minorities, which is, predominantly blacks in Baltimore City. As you see when you look at the empty abandoned buildings boarded up, all on the west side, east side, it's just a whole mess when it comes down to Baltimore City right now. And the funds that's supposed to be used in our communities, what happened to it? What happened to it? So, we definitely need more funding. They took away a lot of things in the black community. A lot of centers and services that was needed to help build and maintain our community. So we got to stand together and work it out through the vote. The vote do matter. And I'm not just talking about on the executive level. I'm talking about at the local level when it comes down to who we make our mayor, who we voting for as judges, city councils, our legislators, local, state. That's, we got to really put the right people in these positions to help fight this battle where a lot more funds will come into our communities. When you think about, remember when I was talking to you about critical race theory? This is subsection of that. Redlining. When it comes down to race in America. So one of the things we have to do is not only get out there and cast our vote, we need to stay on our legislators, our councilmen, man or woman, our mayor. We got to stay on top of things. We really got to come together as a community to fight against redlining, to fight against the money, our tax money that's not being used the way it should be. So I definitely will suggest that we all get out there and vote, because that's important. I know we have had a problem with thinking that, and I'm saying we, meaning us as black folks, have had a problem with thinking that our vote don't count. Our vote does count. It matters. Because when you don't vote, that's just giving the one you don't want in there, more so than anyone else, the opportunity to slide in there and keep on going with this redlining and tearing down our community. Look what they're doing to Marilyn Mosby. To me, in my opinion, and this is my personal opinion, you may not even agree with me, I think that she's a fighter for Baltimore City, the residents of Baltimore City. When she sees an injustice, look at the Freddie Gray situation. Look what happened. She stood up, she stood out, and she spoke up, and she took action. She put action behind her words. Look what's going on with it. Come down to criminalization. How when you think about the marijuana, how she's not. She's not trying to make you a criminal just because you may have a bag of weed on you. There's other things that's out here that takes precedence over that. You have people out here making millions off this plant-based drug. But you want to criminalize people in the inner city. So she's standing up for us. And I think we should support her. And you may not agree. You may have your reasons on why you don't agree. But I think we should. We should back and support her. She's a woman. She's a black woman of power. And they're coming down on her in any which way they can. They're trying to put her in jail for getting her own money. Whatever things she needed it for. Her own money. Do that make sense? To any person out here who ever had a 401k and you may needed it for whatever reason that you felt was a need as far as your family and your livelihood at that moment, and you borrowed against it. You took out a hardship for it. I think we all been there once or twice. But we wasn't criminalized for it. So they couldn't get her professionally, so they trying to get her personally. That should tell a story to us. So that's just my opinion. And like I said, when it comes down to urban renewal and how it affect the black community, it has affected us in not so good of a way. And I'm not saying that it don't have its pros and cons to it, because when it's used in the way that it was meant to be used, yes, I definitely will say that it works. But when you look at our black communities in Baltimore City, just look around, drive through these neighborhoods, you'll see what's going on. Where's the funds? You forgot about us? Well, we just don't matter. So think about that. Until next time, this is Charm City Decoded. I am your host, Sophia Turner. And I will see you next week. Y'all have a great night.